Hello and welcome to the John Ark Show. This episode is called Fire Sale on Property and Assets. Before we begin, I want to encourage you to subscribe, like, follow, and comment on the show. Also, I'd like to tell you about HollywoodIsCalling.com. It's a company that allows you to purchase live calls with more than 100 celebrities. You can purchase calls from actors, movie stars, TV stars, athletes, VIPs. It's great and it's a lot of fun. You can get a live 15-second call for $19.95 or a live 30-second call for $29.95. You can answer the phone when they call, or you can send it to voicemail and they will leave you a message. So give it a try. It's called HollywoodIsCalling.com. Now let's get started. Businesses, restaurants, retailers, and bars have been struggling for months, filing for bankruptcy and trying to hang on in any way possible. Those that have collapsed have filed for bankruptcy, and many others that are still trying to stay open are basically living off their savings and their reserves. That's because many of them aren't making a profit, and they're finding it harder and harder to borrow more money to stay open. Now, recent events have made it even more difficult to stay in business. So what we're seeing now is a lot of fire sale activity pretending not to be fire sale activity. What is a fire sale? A fire sale is a sale of assets at extremely low prices. This usually happens when a seller is confronted with filing bankruptcy or after they file bankruptcy. What's funny about it is that this time no one is admitting to having a fire sale. They're trying to do it silently and very discreetly because the more public a seller's desperation is, the lower the bids they will receive on the items that they're trying to sell. We're seeing much more activity than we would expect at this stage of the game, and we're seeing it in a number of places. Everybody is hearing about all the major retailers, restaurants, and large companies that are filing for bankruptcy, but you don't really hear much about the tens of thousands of small and mid-sized businesses that are going dark. If you see a Google search on companies that have filed for bankruptcy so far this year, you will see many stories about large companies that have filed and gone off the cliff. But you don't really see many stories about smaller and mid-sized companies that have filed or are about to be filing soon. Why is that a big deal? It's a huge deal because small businesses create 2/3 of all new jobs in this country, and they generate 45% of all economic activity in the US. Think about that. If they're generating 45% of all economic activity and thousands of them start going out of business, then that means they will have to start selling their assets and their inventory. When you have so many assets dumped onto the market, then that lowers both prices and demand for all of them. So, if you're a bankrupt restaurant or a retailer that has $5 million in property and inventory that the court is forcing you to liquidate, and you want to put it up for sale at the same time that 100 other businesses in your state that week are also having their assets liquidated by the court, then that collapses the prices and makes matters worse for everybody. Tables and chairs that you could have sold for $100 end up being sold for $10 or just being given away to charity. Clothing that a retailer was unable to sell before their bankruptcy that might have been liquidated by the courts for 40 cents on the dollar is now dumped onto the marketplace where very little clothing is selling, so you end up getting 5 cents on the dollar if you're really lucky. The next thing that happens is that companies that have not filed for bankruptcy but are still trying to sell their products at full retail now have to compete with a flood of liquidated goods being dumped onto the market. So rather than having a customer buy a new item from your store for $50, they may decide to purchase that same item from a liquidator down the street or online for $10 or $20. And this makes it very difficult for companies that are still trying to stay afloat. In fact, for many of them, it'll make it impossible. So what about the used car market? People are already seeing used cars flooding the market, and they're being dumped onto the market by car rental companies that have filed for bankruptcy. Some of them have dumped millions of used cars onto the market. Now, the banks and the car dealers are doing their best to hide the fact that used car prices are being driven down and being hammered. But when you have so many millions of used cars flooding onto the market, that becomes a real challenge. It's not a secret that can be kept. The people who are really going to benefit are those used car buyers who are aware of what's going on and they take full advantage of it by making lowball offers. The thing about successfully making lowball offers is that it only works if you're willing to make many such offers until you find a seller that's desperate enough to agree to your offer. So the question becomes, how can you or anyone else take advantage of these fire sale prices and save a ton of money? Well, first you have to monitor the marketplace. If you're looking for used cars, then sit back patiently and watch as the prices on various car websites and auction sites begin to slide downward. If you see a car that you're interested in, then feel free to make a lowball offer and see what happens. If he doesn't accept it this week, then ask him again in a month or two. Time has a way of softening sellers up because they're the ones who have to deal with the carrying costs and the interest charges. What about real estate? If you're selling your house, then I would recommend you do everything in your power to sell it as quickly as possible because time is not your friend. Home prices across the country are dropping, and the number of days that a typical house sits on the market looking for a buyer is increasing. I'm hearing that in New York and California, the number of homes that have been on the market for more than 250 days is now staggering. If you're a home buyer, then time is now working in your favor. The longer you sit back and wait, the lower the prices will become. If you do see a home that you love and you decide to make an aggressive offer on it that is rejected, then make sure you give the seller's agent your card and simply say, if you're still on the market in 6 months, call me. I may still be interested, but my offer will probably be much lower than the offer I just made. The next thing you want to do, if you're interested in taking advantage of all these falling prices, is to go online and check out a lot of the liquidation companies and websites. They often sell millions of dollars of products at a discount, and depending on what you're looking for, you may find some great bargains for 10 or 20 cents on the dollar. Now, what about gold and jewelry? Well, if you're interested in gold or jewelry, then you have to be really careful because our sources are telling us that the market is now being flooded by literally tons of fake gold. I just heard that one seizure alone captured more than 80 tons of fake gold, so be extremely careful. The other thing that we're noticing is that some major auction websites and companies, which allow you to buy goods and select only those sellers who are selling from the United States, are really just reselling foreign products and claiming they are being sold by US sellers. There is a lot of deception out there, so be very careful. Another thing that I want you to be aware of as you search for great deals is that this price dropping phenomena is not limited to products alone. There are a lot of lawyers, accountants, bookkeepers, plumbers, and electricians out there selling their services who are so desperate for work that you should try and negotiate their prices. Ask them what they normally would charge for your job, and then offer them 30 or 40 cents on the dollar and tell them you're going to pay in cash. Make sure to highlight the cash part because that often makes the difference. If you're smart, they will probably counter your offer and the two of you will be able to do some business. But if they're greedy or stupid and they still believe that we're living in 2019, then they are free to continue to try and charge full price and watch as their business declines. So with that, I want to say good luck and thank you for watching. We will see you soon.